everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast. I am Marcus, your host, and thank you so much for being here today. Episode 67, we've got some stuff to talk about here. Very excited for what's coming up a little bit later in the podcast. Denny and I are going to be joined by Sarah Stuart, and she is a driver manager, and we are also going to be joined by Vernon Butts, who is one of her drivers. Vernon and Sarah are going to talk to us a little bit about these new check-in kiosks we've seen popping up around the industry. Some of our customers have got them. They seem to be kind of an automated thing where you're not checking in with a person, you're checking in with a robot, which is cool, and then a bunch of other stuff. And we're going to talk to Sarah and Vernon about the but, and also some of the things that might help. I mean, look, when we talk about technological advancements in the trucking industry, there are some that have been really good, and there are some that have been less so. Maybe just not adopted real early. Maybe some things that made some drivers scratch their heads for a little bit to really figure out, hey, what are we actually making better with this process? So we're going to talk about that, dissect it a little bit. We'll hear from, like I said, Sarah Stuart and Vernon Butts later in the show. And then following that, I will have H&M drivers Tommy Bash and Scotty Beals on the show to talk a little bit about the customer service side of things. Because obviously, one thing that we see with these kiosks is, hey, when we used to check in with a warm body, that was our first opportunity to display really good customer service and make these customers want to come back to H&M because of how good we are at our jobs. And when you check in with a robot, unfortunately, there's not much that robot can do for you. If you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, it really, really stands up to what we're dealing with here. So very excited to talk about all of that with Sarah, Vernon, Tommy, and Scotty a bit later on in the program. And of course, my awesome co-host, Denny, will take part in that as well. And I'd like to remind all of you that are new drivers, if you're listening to this, and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to be on this podcast. We're always welcoming new people onto the podcast whenever they want to take part. So touch base with your driver manager, or the next time you're there at the terminal, touch base with Sherry Vogler or Eve Essery. They will get you my contact information, get us linked up, and we will get you on the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Welcome to all those new and returning H&M drivers. Stay safe out there on the road, and enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to it. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button on your podcast platform of choice. It's absolutely free. It's going to tell you every time we release new content, which, for those of you who might be new to the show, is every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. Central Time. So when you're getting up and burning those early morning hours, we'll be there for you on Wednesdays with a new episode each week. And you know what? Another thing I'll remind you to do, if you don't mind, since we're on the homework subject, be sure to leave us a review. If you like the podcast or if you hate it, I would love to hear your feedback. And you can get that to me directly for sure through any one of the channels, whether it's on social media or you want to get in touch with your driver manager and just get my phone number. I talk to H&M drivers multiple times a week over the phone, via text. We're always in touch. So I want to hear your feedback. And one way that you can do that is by leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you listen on Apple, leave us that 5-star review. It helps. If you listen on Spotify, same thing there. Any place where you can leave a review that you can actually put some text in and say, hey, this is why I like it, this is why I don't. Those are very valuable to us here at the H&M Trucking Podcast. So get on there, let us know what you think, and let me know if you want to take part in the podcast. We'd love to have you. That's going to wrap up the intro. Let's get to the meat of this podcast episode. Next up, mine and Denny's chat with Sarah Stuart, driver manager for H&M Trucking, and Vernon Butts. He's a driver for H&M as well.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Well, Denny, we're doing it again this week. We got a couple of first-timers here with us on the podcast, and, you know, it makes me super excited when we get first-timers on because I know there's still a lot of people that work at H&M that we haven't talked to, both drivers and office staff alike. And, Denny, we're lucky to be joined here today by a couple of newcomers to the podcast in Sarah Stuart, Driver Manager for H&M Trucking. Sarah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I was actually excited.
I could
Now
tell.
I'm nervous.
I could tell when we talked on the phone. It was like I could hear the excitement in your voice, and I told you, hey, it's good to hear somebody that's exciting. Sometimes it's a little bit like pulling teeth to get people on here, and you weren't like that at all. So
I've just been at my desk low-key waiting for you guys to ask me.
well,
Finally.
now you have an open invite. So anytime you want to come on the podcast from Denny and I, you're more than welcome. Just reach out, okay?
Thanks.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Also joining us today here is one of your drivers. We've got H&M driver Vernon Butts on the line for his first appearance on the podcast. Vernon, thank you for being here today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Where are you at and where are you headed today?
Oh, I'm going to, oh God, where am I going? That's a good question.
Funny, and I'm like, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm at Fort
I remember
Madison.
you going there at 6 a.m.
Yeah, right?
I don't remember where it is.
I'm going to Pinnacle Foods over here in
Okay.
Fort Madison.
Gotcha. Well, hey, it's a question I ask to most of the drivers, and it's not always one that gets answered lickety split. I understand you guys, you see a lot of road out there, and I can imagine it probably starts to look the same in certain areas.
Yeah, they all got the same white line going down the middle.
Absolutely. So listen, the reason we brought you in here today is I was talking with Eve and Sherry a little bit like normal. They're the ones that supply me with a lot of the stuff that we do here on this podcast, and they were telling me about some new check-in kiosks that are being implemented for some of your guys' customers. And it seemed to me when we were chatting that there was just, it's not what I want to call confusion. It's like the unknown. There's some people putting in some new things. There's going to be some new standard operating procedures for some customers. And so I figured we'd just bring you guys on here and talk a little bit about what you're seeing. Sarah, I'm going to start with you from your side. When it comes to these check-in kiosks, how many of them have you heard of drivers seeing out there, and what's the deal with them? Are they going to make this more efficient process when it comes to delivering your loads, or is this going to streamline it? Maybe not have drivers waiting around as long. What are you seeing out there?
I am not seeing them pop up super frequently yet, but I have had a few drivers come across them. They're just kind of like, instead of checking in with like a guard shack or a gate person, it's just a automated system that they talk through, ask for like a pickup number or something. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the kiosk.
Okay, tell me why, if you don't mind.
I think it has a potential to be very speedy, but the biggest issue where I've seen with them are there's a delay. It's just the lack of like not talking to an actual person. It's like a recording, and you'll give them your number, and it'll say like we've sent a message to the shipper to let them know you're here, and now wait for a phone call or whatever for you to come in and check in. And then some time will go by, and they're just kind of waiting, and there's like usually a number to call if they're having issues at the kiosk, and like sometimes that number doesn't connect them to anyone, and it's been a whole thing. My advice to drivers, like if you're about to check in at a kiosk, is to triple check your pickup numbers with me, because a lot of the issue with them there is that like they'll accidentally key in the wrong number, and then they'll get an error back, and then fixing that takes a lot of back and forth and trying to get a hold of somebody on the other line through like an automated system.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like ordering your food at like the McDonald's drive-in.
It's kind of what I was thinking. It sounds like they took away the middleman, which was beneficial, and put a robot in their place.
Exactly. So it's like nice because it will eliminate some errors, but communicating with it isn't like communicating with a person, and there's less room for error when you're talking to a
warm-blooded person. Right. Yeah.
That's like 100% what it's like. And you have similar issues. Like when you're like, that's not the type of sauce I said. And they're like getting your order wrong. But I mean, once they can fine tune them, I think that it could save us a lot of time with check-ins potentially. It's just going to be a learning curve.
Sure. Just like I remember, phone trees when you call like a big company and you got to go through a phone tree and you're just yelling, agent, and it never works. And they send you to the accounting department. Like, yeah, that can be a foreseeable problem, but hopefully they can fine tune the technology a little bit. Vernon, have you run across this yet in your travels out there? And has it been something that you've kind of struggled with? Has it been easy to use? What are you seeing?
Well, if you read the instructions that are usually placed right over the things, they're pretty basic. They either have QR codes on the top of the paperwork or a barcode that just scans it, reads it in. The only thing I've noticed with it is it limits your flexibility. If you can't call somebody and find out if you can come in early, you're just wasting time, and time is money. So it truly limits you as a driver. You can't. There's no flexibility on your pickups or delivery times. It hinders progress.
And do you think that there's a way that they could address that issue and make that, not the case, Vernon? Is there anything they could do? Any suggestions you might have for them?
Well, the only thing that would rectify something like that is it's a first come first serve basis.
Mm-hmm.
You get in, you check in, and you wait your turn in line. And as we all know, that can cost you a whole day.
Right. That provides its own set of problems.
Right.
Okay. Well, Denny, I want to go to you here. This doesn't sound like something that maybe you had run into a lot back in your time with H&M Trucking, but I'm interested to know if you ever did run across this and what you thought about it.
I did. Why are you laughing at me, girl?
Because she's been watching your face, too, just like me. Oh, and you got some people. So it just for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube and are just listening to it, the breakout rooms at the H&M office that a lot of the office staff take these interviews in have something akin to a goober viewing hole. It's a full windowed glass door, and people can just kind of walk up like they're at the zoo and wave at whoever's in there and knock on the window. And I don't know if they've put one of those stations out there where they can buy some candy for you or some snacks, Sarah, and throw it in your cage there. But
we're not there yet.
Yeah, you're not there yet, but you're doing a pretty good job competing with whoever it is out there that's trying to mess with you. So thank you for dividing your attention accordingly. We appreciate it. Don't worry about it. She was
shaking her butt through the window.
You never know what's going to happen.
Did you see me blush? It literally made me blush this place. Sorry.
Sorry. You're okay. You're all right. Denny, so back to the kiosks. We'll get back to whoever's shaking their butt here in a few minutes, and we'll give you an update on that. But what did you see when you were out there, Denny?
Yeah, they had implemented them in a few locations, so I rarely ran into them. But, it's good and bad, like everybody else is saying. The good is you don't stand at a window and be ignored by some by some person for 15 or 20 minutes sitting there 2 or 3 feet away that will not make eye contact, but has a sign in the window says, do not knock on window. And the last thing you want to do when you're trying to check in is piss the person off. So you stand there and, it really after a while, it gets to you. It makes you feel less important than a human being because you just want to check in so you can get the dock and you can move on with your day, and they ignore you. So the kiosk is a good thing in that instance because you can go ahead and get yourself in line. But like they said, the other instance is, you got to make sure you have the right number, because I know load planners and dispatchers, they get numerous numbers. So maybe the one they gave you isn't the one. I would say for the kiosk people, maybe you could, drop down a list. You say, okay, here's my name or my truck number or whatever. And then they drop a list, say, okay, which one of these numbers applies to you? And you go, okay, it's that one. Click on that. That way you don't have the mix up. But yeah, they got some bugs to work out in the system, but ultimately it could be a better thing. I mean, hell, when I started, it was a CB radio. You'd check in, they'd call you on the CB and say, you need getting dock number 4 or whatever. And I've seen places that have pagers. Now that was nice. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and check in. They give you a pager, kind of like the hostess at the restaurant. They give you this little pager thing. And As soon as that goes off, you know which door to get into. So that's another option for getting in your door. But I don't know. Technology is good. It's good and it's bad at the same time.
I'm going to take a wild guess here and just ask you, was there one particular woman that ignored you a lot every time you came to her window? And that's why you said some woman, like you were trying to keep it anonymous, but you're picturing a person right now, aren't you, Denny?
Oh, yeah. I was the wrong color.
Well, we won't get any further into that anymore.
Let's leave Sarah out of this.
I don't like where this conversation is heading.
Well, I think, when you go,
I'll put it this way. It wasn't just me because H&M no longer goes there. We would literally be at this particular location. I'll just say near Chicago and leave it at that. And everybody else is probably going to know where I'm talking about. But you could go there and try to check in. You could not get a door. You could literally be, if you were a white boy, you could be at this location for 7 or 8 hours. Whereas you watch just numerous other guys go check in. She'd get a big old smile, give him a door, and he'd get in and out. And she'd just keep you waiting. So she obviously didn't like light complexion.
Maybe she liked it a lot. Maybe it was just because you're so damn good looking. She wanted to keep you around, stare at you for a little bit. Denny, you've been eye candy before. Come on now.
Shut up. Shut up.
I was going to say, he's got a real nice radio voice, too. I see why he's on this show a lot.
Yep, and you piss him off, he starts talking faster, and you get more words coming out, and then you think, man, I could sit here and listen to this guy all day. Let's keep him here for 7 or 8 hours. I like having him around. I mean, I'm just guessing, Denny. It's complete speculation from my side. You were the one that experienced it. But one of the important parts here that we're kind of touching on and talking about all this is that, even Sherry mentioned to us that the thing about the kiosks that they are kind of like, it sucks, is that when you are checking in with someone, a warm body, that's your first instance of being able to kind of display your really good customer service and being an ambassador for H&M Trucking and making them feel like H&M Trucking is above and beyond the rest. Vernon, do you feel like you're going to lose that if too many of these kiosks come up? You're not going to be able to demonstrate that exemplary customer service that you have.
Well, I'm a chatterbox, so I pretty much get along with everybody. But yeah, it could hamper your ability to just basically show people that you're not the typical or sometimes the atypical driver that is a jerk and doesn't constantly got a mean mug on their face and don't want to talk to anybody or be cordial, and it's all about somebody wanting to be treated the way you want to be treated. So that's how you have to treat other people. And if you've got a machine you're talking to, you're talking to a black box.
Right. And I mean, we already talked about it. From my experience in talking to a machine, it's easy to get frustrated very quickly because I'm pressing the number 2 on your stupid box that tells me to press 2, and what's supposed to happen isn't happening. So that can get frustrating real quick. Sarah, do you have any advice for your drivers out there when they're using a kiosk, they can't give that great customer service? Is there any way to find that and still be that good person like Vernon's talking about and treat people the way you want to be treated after you've already checked in, or are they pretty much separate and there's not much they can do at that point?
Not really much you can do unless you can get a hold of somebody on the other end. I don't know if the kiosks provide phone numbers for like a follow-up or for somebody to talk to. I feel for my drivers because in so many cases, it's because they have the opportunity to check in with a friendly face and be polite and kind, like they can get worked in a little bit earlier. And now I do feel like the kiosks are going to be, I don't really see how they'll have the opportunity to do that until after they can surpass the kiosk and see somebody. So that's tough.
So it's probably going to be something that hinges on, just keeping your times as close to your ETAs as what you possibly can. As really all you can do as a driver at that point is to just show up on time. I mean, if they're checking you in with a robot, hey, I'm here when I'm supposed to be here. That's really the only thing a driver could do, it sounds like.
It's kind of hard right now too, Marcus, with like the freight industry. It used to be so much that like our quality customer service put us a step above like other companies, and anymore with the prices of goods, like the freight availability, how competitive the market is, it's like we can't even consider how good we are. We have a lot of customers like, we love you guys, we love your drivers, but like our on-time service is lacking, and it's the efficiency. People want the cheapest price and the fastest drivers and like the dependability. And if it's like, it sucks that they're just willing to forego the good customer service experience because everything else is more of a priority right now. So yeah, with the kiosk, it's like you don't get the opportunity to be like, I'm sorry, I'm late. This happened. You don't have an opportunity to explain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the on-time service, that's 100% the most important thing that a driver could be doing right now, is making sure they have a pickup number, verifying that with dispatch, and then ensuring like they're there when they're supposed to be, to eliminate that, because that's on-time service is like the number one thing our customers are looking at right now. And it doesn't even matter how nice we are, how messed up as that is, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Hence like the kiosk thing in general. It's all about efficiency and saving costs and saving time.
Vernon, do you feel that pressure as a driver, that it's all about the efficiency at this point in time, and get there as quick as you can from your delivery perspective? Obviously, from H&M's perspective, safety's number one.
Yeah.
And get there safe and get there in one piece. But do you feel the pressure from the customer side, Vernon, on the efficiency aspect?
Well, I know what they're talking. I personally haven't ran into it. I haven't run across a load where I've been here since last July, and I haven't run across a load that's put me under that kind of. I think I've had one load where I've had to call Sarah and say, "Hey, bump it back a half hour just in case." That's about it.
Okay.
I don't see. I mean, doesn't mean other people aren't running into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see where that could be a problem. I just personally haven't run into it.
Well, before we go any further, I think that we just accidentally stumbled across a 1-year anniversary with H&M Trucking that we get to celebrate. So a round of applause.
I don't know about that.
You're not. It's not been a year?
Well, I had to take 2 months off because I tore a ligament in my foot. So technically, no.
You were still employed. You were still employed. You know what? From the mouth of James Fonda himself, I've been given the ability to say, you've been employed for a year. Let's celebrate it on this podcast. And please don't ask James if he actually gave me permission to say that, because he might have his own answer, and it's not going to be the one I just gave you. But congratulations on your tenure with the company. 1 year in, 10 months worth of driving. You'll get to that 12 months of driving soon, but I'm interested about the fact that you haven't felt that pressure yet, because I do know, other drivers do feel it, and I'm sure some of it has to do with not only the freight that you're hauling and the people that you're hauling it to, but the price that was paid for that and everything else. So it's interesting to me, because customer service in so many different industries is such a important thing. And it is a very important thing in what you guys are doing, but it's also one of the more overlooked aspects of what you're doing. People don't think truck driving and their mind doesn't automatically go to customer service. But when I talk to people from terminals or I talk to customers, one thing that I get from them from time to time is, sometimes, a driver will come in a really bad mood and they'll give us a really tough time. And I'm not going to look to get that guy moved up in line at all, even if it would behoove me to do so. I'm going to treat him the way he treated me, which is something that Vernon talked about there. And Denny, I see you shaking your head too. I mean, customer service is an important part of trucking, whether we think about it all the time or not. Would you agree?
Take a bath.
Take a bath?
Or a shower. Yeah.
Just
quick
hose
story.
off. Just hose
there
off.
There was this little gate guard, lady gate guard, at a facility in Macon that I used to go to. And one day I was in there checking in, And this guy walked in behind me. She reached up and grabbed a big old can of Lysol and started spraying all over him. I told you to take a bath before you came back in here. And the guy looked like, what is it, Linus from Peanuts?
Yeah, or the Pigpen.
Yeah, Pigpen.
Yeah, one with a little dust cloud following him around.
He looked like he hadn't seen water and soap in at least a week or two. And kind of smelled that way too, but I had to laugh because she's so funny. She just literally sprayed him down. Anyway, and take a pen with you.
That's funny.
I can't believe how many truck drivers show up to check in and they don't have a pen.
Little things like that cost us all time. Vernon, have you seen people show up just completely unprepared for their check-in and cost everybody behind them time?
All the time. Absolutely. Yeah, they leave their little notebook or their phone or their pen or their ID, and it's always, can't say I haven't been guilty of it, but, it's on my, usually before I set the brakes, I've got my pen, my phone, and my ID sitting right there ready to grab it when I jump in, because if you don't, you're going to be walking back and forth for no reason, and that's just another waste of time.
Yep. Yep, and a waste of energy, too, when it's 105 outside like it is in so many places across the United States right now. So.
I did it last week in Texas, and it was like 114 outside, and I was cussing myself out for a half hour just because I had to walk back out to the truck.
Yep. Denny's familiar. They've been back in the Stone Age with Denny over these last couple weeks. He's been out of air conditioning, no internet, battening down the hatches. Texas is no joke in July, right, Denny?
No, sir. And... like I saw somebody said yesterday, Texas, we're just preheating.
It's just perpetually, it sounds like.
We haven't gotten to August yet, but of course, Texas is bad enough, but my God, Arizona and that southern part of California, 120,
Yikes. Yeah, so get all your stuff with you before you get out of the truck and save yourself the sunburn. Because it is serious out there. And this also is good advice for when it's snowing outside. I don't think anybody wants to be out in the snow and ice either. So be prepared, be presentable. This is another thing, Denny, that you've seen firsthand, that it will help you out if you do. These are all great pieces of advice. And before we run out of time here, Sarah, you've been so gracious with your time today, but we've also just been chatting a lot and haven't given you a chance to bring up anything that you might think is important and you want the drivers to kind of be realizing when it comes to customer service, check-in kiosks, normal check-ins with a warm body. Is there anything here that you'd like to add to the conversation before we let you go and just get out to your drivers?
I don't think so. We did a good job addressing the issues with the kiosks now that are going to be starting to be a big thing. We need to have a bigger focus on on-time pickups and deliveries and ensuring that we are prepared with everything we need to make that process go as smoothly as possible. And then also, like you guys were just speaking about now, when you do get to talk to somebody, those shippers and receivers will 100% prioritize you based on how easy you are to work with and how pleasant you are. I've seen it countless times with my drivers. Like Vernon made a joke once about bringing donuts into like a receiver to get them to unload them like earlier before everyone else, or if you get there right before they open and you're just like extra pleasant. Although my drivers will call me and be like, guess what? I'm unloaded already. And I'm like, what? How did you do that? And they're like, I just flashed my eyelashes or whatever they got to do, show some leg. I don't know. But those little things, like they pay off so often. Just being nice. It's like almost rare anymore. So when you like go the extra way to like, if you get the opportunity to talk to somebody who's like a nice person and is willing to receive that, take advantage of it and show your personality. You guys are all so funny and have so many stories, and those little things do make a big difference. It helps you.
Absolutely.
It helps you by being nice to people. Like, let's just do that.
Yeah. Well,
that's all.
Something that my dad used to tell me all the time when I would get pissed off as a kid. He would just say, hey, you'll always make more friends with honey than you will with vinegar. And that was always something that it really is something I carry with me to this day, is that, look, I might not be having a good day. It might be a terrible day. It might be the worst day. But the person across the table from me doesn't know that. And if I show up with that all over my face and all over my actions, it's going to end up being a sour interaction. But if I can just put on a happy face for a couple of minutes and get past this one, I can go keep having a bad day in the cab of my truck or wherever I want to do that, and just not involve anybody else. Denny, obviously, you're a friendly guy. You're a happy-go-lucky guy, but I've seen you get pissed off before. You obviously had some ways to deal with that internally before you went and displayed exemplary customer service while you were driving for H&M, yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean, generally, I start out treating people right. Now, if you treat me wrong, I'm willing to give it right back to you. But for instance, I happen to know one of the shipping guys at a regular customer of H&M, and over time, I got it wound up with his cell phone number. I'd call him on the way in, and I'd say, "Hey, I got a clean trailer. It's an empty. I'm supposed to do a drop and hook. Do you want me to put it in the yard, or do you need it in a door?" Just little things like that. And I got excellent service all the time, just because I would go the extra mile to help him out a little bit. Any of those little things can help.
Sure.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, and when has a dozen donuts ever hurt anybody's feelings? Let's think about it that way too, right?
Okay.
Vernon, before we let you go, my friend, anything else you'd like to add here, or anything that you'd like to say to anybody that might be listening, whether it be fellow drivers, H&M office staff, or friends and family? The floor is yours. Please take it away.
Well, the only thing I can say is just remember, everybody has a bad day now and then. You can't just think everybody's a jerk just because they're having a bad day. You chalk it up and move on. And another thing I can suggest is, we were all raised, and I know everybody's parents said, use your manners. Manners count. My father used to tell me all the time, manners matter. You go a long way with the yes, sir, thank you, ma'am, just how you doing.
Mm-hmm.
It puts people at ease.
It does. Being friendly. It's easy, costs you nothing. My mom used to tell me with the manners, whenever I would go over to a friend's house, she would always say, "Hey, mind your P's and Q's." And I still, to this day, at almost 40 years old, have no idea what that meant, but I knew it meant you better behave, is all it really was, is don't be a little jerk. And yeah, manners are important. Mind your manners. Mind your P's and Q's. Great stuff there, Vernon. Very well said. And great advice to remember for every driver out there might be having a bad day. A smile does go a very long way. Vernon Butts, H&M Driver, for a year or 10 months. We're not sure, but we'll go ahead and call it a year for the purpose of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. We will keep your number and get you back on this podcast again soon, okay?
Anytime.
Awesome. And Sarah Stuart, Driver Manager for H&M, your time is also greatly appreciated. Thank you for having fun with us today, and I'm sorry about whoever was shaking their butt in the window earlier.
I didn't find it.
We'll get a sign up that says limit butt shaking to 5 seconds or something like that, so it's not too distracting, all right?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining
Thanks
Denny
for
and I.
having me.
Yeah, it was a great time. We'll get you both back on again soon, okay? Take care.
You too.
I'm joined now by, of course, my illustrious co-host, Denny Stone. Denny, good to have you back, as always.
Illustrious.
I thought that was a good word for you.
Well, thank you.
I'll let you pick your
Make
own
my
next time if
afternoon.
you want. I mean, actually, no. Here's a better one. Let's let your wife pick it. Let's let her do it, see what she comes up with.
Now, we may be here for a while. She's got to think on it.
And those other two laughters you hear in the back there, I've got H&M driver Scotty Beals here again for yet another appearance. Scotty, always good to have you back on the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
And also joining us for the first time, his name is Tommy Bash. He's also an H&M driver. Tommy, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here.
Hey, anytime, man. We're all family. It's good to get together.
Absolutely. And I hear that you got a crash course on finding the podcast from Sherry, so you've been catching up on a little bit of the H&M Trucking Podcast out there this week, haven't you, Tommy?
Yes, sir. It's I'm kind of technology illiterate, and e-logs and stuff. I'm getting them figured out. I've been paper logged for years, and I came to work at H&M July 17th of last year, so coming up will be my 1-year anniversary, and I've about got it figured out now.
Okay, good. Give you enough time, you'll figure it out, right?
Oh yeah.
So, tell me, you were on paper logs before. What do you think now that you're on these e-logs? You're getting them figured out. Do you like them more or less than the old paper logs?
It's a toss-up, really. I don't have to Google or look at the map to know how to spell the town I'm in. That's kind of nice. But when you have a 12-hour run and you only have 11 hours to drive, it kind of stinks because you have to shut down so you can go an hour in the morning.
Sure. It's just kind of keeping a close eye on you.
Yeah, other than that, I've got comfortable with it now. I've learned a little bit about it and understand it more now, so it's not so threatening to me.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest with you, and Denny, you can speak on this too, but that might be the most positive review we've had of asking a driver what he thinks about the e-logs on this podcast. They're not the most popular thing amongst our more tenured drivers.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
I ran paper logs for years, and it seemed like it worked to the benefit of the owner and the shipper and the receiver more than it ever did me. But, when I went to the e-logs, I didn't have to worry about throwing my receipts out and stuff anymore. I didn't have to sweat it.
Okay. All right. How about you, Scotty? You've been driving for a while. Have you ever drive with paper logs?
Yes.
And what's your take on the e-logs versus paper logs debate?
Well, it kind of confines you sometimes. In Germany, we drove on what we call pack cards. We had the cards behind our speedometer told us how many RPMs we was going, how many hours we've been driving, how many miles per hour we was going. So switching over to the e-logs wasn't too bad. Me and my wife, when we teamed for the Department of Defense, we knew the e-logs was coming, so we switched to what they call a laptop. And we had a printer in our truck that made it legal for us to run a laptop for a log. So
okay.
we got used to it before it came in. So, but of course my wife don't team with me anymore. So I run solo now. She can't drive no more for health reasons.
Okay. Well, a little bit of a learning curve, I'm sure, there once you lost your team partner, but you're figuring it out. I mean, you're still here, right?
Haven't fired me yet.
Hey, I don't think it's coming, man. I think I'll get fired long before you, Scotty. Let's just go ahead and put money on that right now. So, there's something here that I want to bring up that is, we'll get to the business. I'm going to ask you guys some customer service questions here in a little bit because both of you have been singled out by Sherry Vogler back at the home office there as people that have outstanding customer service. So I'm not going to go away from that completely, but there is something that I learned about both on Facebook and when I was talking to you, Tommy, to set up the interview here. And I know Denny has seen it on the Facebook page as well. Talk to me a little bit about Wilson the cactus.
Well, I grew up out in California, and I was just raised a desert rat, so I've always liked cactus. And I stopped and bought the cactus. It said Arizona on the little stick sign there. So I sanded it off and wrote Wilson on it after Wilson from Castaway.
Right.
Because he's a good listener, but he can be a prick sometimes,
I love it. And so you kind of take this cactus along like he's along for the ride. He's an adventure buddy of yours, right?
Yeah, he's the trucking cactus, and he kind of came about on his own. I'd be sitting in the truck at a truck stop, and he's sitting on the dash, and I'd take a picture of a good-looking truck, and I'd post it on
one of the trucking pages on social media, and nobody saw the beautiful chromed out Peterbilt with all the lights. They want to talk about the silly cactus.
And you got to give the people what they want, right?
Exactly. I pulled into a truck stop, and this woman jumps out of her truck and comes running over to my truck, high stepping, stretching her neck, and I'm like, what in the world's going on? I'm about ready to jump out of the truck. I think something's happening. And she starts hollering, "It is Wilson. It is Wilson. I thought it was
Oh,
Wilson."
hell.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that's where Wilson's Facebook page came about. Then the grandchildren and the wife and everybody thought, well, let's see what kind of mischief Wilson can get into. And we got Wilson a picture on top of the Ohio State Troopers car, you know. And everybody just seems to play along great with Wilson. So I think that the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund is a good cause for owner-operators and such as that. If you're in a time of crisis, they can help you out with groceries or make a utility payment, a truck payment, a house payment, or whatever. So if I get Wilson big enough, then maybe he can help draw some attention to the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund and get some money brought in for them.
Absolutely. I hope so. And, you know, Scotty, I know you're familiar with this. We are always about our charitable contributions and any type of love that we can give to any charity that you guys support out there. We want to do that. And just to make sure I heard it right, that's the St. Christopher's Trucking Group. Is that what it was?
It's a relief fund. It's
Relief Fund. Thank you.
Yeah, if you go to Wilson Cactus with a K Facebook page, there's a little sign in front of Wilson on his profile page, and it has the St. Christopher Trucker Relief Fund on it.
Okay, and is that Cactus with a K?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we had to make them original.
Okay, all right. I see it right there, yep. St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund, man. That's great. This guy's got followers. This cactus has more followers than I do, Denny. I gotta take a page out of Tommy's book here and figure out my online profile because this cactus is popular, man. I'm loving all the pictures here. You said you got a picture of him on the top of a state police car out in Ohio. Were you by chance in handcuffs in the background, leaned over the trunk of that police car, Tommy?
I claimed it fifth.
Good man there. Good man there. So let's now that we've learned a little bit about Wilson Cactus, and by the way, you are all encouraged to go follow him on Facebook because it's fun to just scroll through the pictures, see all the places that Tommy's had Wilson out on the road. But let's talk a little bit about customer service now, because you guys were, like I said, singled out by Sherry and a group of drivers for your exemplary customer service. And we already talked a little bit with driver Vernon Butts and driver manager Sarah Stuart about these new check-in kiosks that are popping up at some of your guys' customers. Now, Scotty, I'll start here with you. Have you seen any of these new automated check-in kiosks replace maybe a guard shack or something like that at any of the accounts that you run to?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, and how about you, Tommy? Have you seen any of these?
I rented one out in California.
Oh, imagine that, out in California. They're always going to make it easy for you out there.
Easy. I grew up there, but I don't claim it. I live in Oklahoma, so I claim to be an Okie.
Okay, totally understand.
It's, I don't care for it much. It just prints a ticket out and tells you, go to door number 5, and you have to drive all around the hundreds of acres trying to find door number 5 because naturally nothing's in order. You know, you have door number 1 and then door number 3 and number 2 somewhere else, and it's a lot more convenient if somebody could actually talk to you and point you in the right direction.
Sure. Did you find that you lost that little bit of customer service edge that you had? Because normally at that place you'd have been talking to a warm body and instead you were just getting a ticket printed out?
Yeah, definitely. I like human contact, you know. to be able to talk to somebody. It's like self checkout. I don't care for self checkout either.
I just want him to give me a discount. If I'm going to do somebody else's job, just knock 10% off my bill or something like that. Pay me a wage for doing this guy's job.
Am I the only person in the world that likes self-checkout?
I use it all the time, Denny. I just can't reconcile it. That's my only problem. I mean,
if I can bag my own stuff, my shit doesn't get squashed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And,
they don't put in a great big jar of something with my bread, if I can do it myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, the other thing too is I get that we want to hire friendly people in all industries that are customer facing, but can we just get a couple of checkers that don't need to hear my life story when I'm trying to buy a dozen eggs? Like if the self-checkout's closed, then I'll go to a regular checker, and it's like I'm on a quiz show or something like that. They're trying to find out everything about me. And I'm a friendly person until I just don't want to be anymore. And I just got a very short rope with it, I guess.
Shove Ashley in front of you in the line.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, then I might not get to leave with her, though, Denny. I mean, some of these checkers are quite charming, But, Scotty, I'll talk to you then, since you haven't seen one of these kiosks yet. Do you think it's something, are you running dedicated accounts where it's not going to happen, or do you think it's something you'll run into before too long?
I'll run into it before long.
And what are your thoughts on it?
It'll be interesting. I'll be pretty lost.
Yeah. You like the human to human interaction too. I imagine, just from talking to you as much as we have on the podcast. You're a friendly guy. You're very personable. I imagine that's where your customer service edge comes in, much like Tommy is. Get somebody in front of you and you're going to charm the pants off of them.
Yeah, best way I've handled rough customers before. They start cussing. I said, "Whoa, hold up, sir or ma'am. Hey, let's don't go down this road. I'm not going to be here to be cussed out." I said, "Now, you want to talk to me rationally? There's 2 times I'll tell a customer, no, I ain't doing that. When it involves my safety or involves my equipment safety. Yes, I know this is H&M's equipment, but and I'm not going to be standing here to be cussed out. And when you figure out what you want, sir or ma'am, then we'll get her done." That's the way I am.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good way to handle it. You never really, I found this in college a lot of the times when you'd be out at a bar and you'd start to see people get a little bit drunk, and then all of a sudden there was an altercation. The guy who tried to aggressively calm down the aggressive party was always the first one to get punched in the face. The guy who came in with a level head and said, "Hey, let's take our voices down. Let's not sit here and scream at each other." Sometimes had a chance at diffusing the situation and having a positive outcome. And that's a lot like what it seems like your philosophy on it is. You're not going to meet fire with fire, Scotty. You're going to meet fire with water and try to diffuse the situation.
Yep.
Ever had any bad luck with that, where a person won't stop and just keeps going off on you until you have to separate?
I have, when I was doing truck movers, where we moved piggyback trucks, I said, "Sir, that's it. I'm going back to my truck. When you calm down, you can come out to my truck and we can figure out what we got to get done."
And how long did it take him to come back to your truck?
About 10, maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, so he needed some time. He needed to sit in a dark room and breathe, it sounds like.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think you want this?
I mean,
there you go. You got it.
Tommy, how about you? How do you diffuse a angry customer? Is it something that you're kind of like Scotty? You just gonna be as calm as possible and try to separate from the situation?
When I was younger, I was little Banny Rooster, and I couldn't diffuse anything. but as I got older and it took longer to heal, I've just kind of, if you run into somebody being a Richard Noggin, you just gotta smile, and I don't know if he's had a bad day, if he had to deal with some
some asshat before I came along. So I just try to smile and stay happy. A while back I had one kind of get me upset. I came out to the truck and I called after hours and I got Kurt on the phone and I kind of vented on him a little bit, calmed down, and went back, and everything was smooth with the customer. So, thank our after-hours dispatch.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great resource to have in a situation like that. Now, Denny, it looked like you kind of resonated a little bit there when Tommy said he doesn't heal up quite as quick anymore.
I remember a warehouse in Atlanta one time years ago, and they had this, I guess it was the warehouse manager. He probably about 5 feet any way you wanted to measure him. He looked like a beach ball with arms and legs. He would yell at anybody. This man was always in a bad mood, and he decided to lash out at me one day, started screaming at me from, I don't know, probably 8 docks down, however far that is, 100, 200 feet, something like that. He starts screaming at me and waving his hand in the air and stuff. And instead of meeting him halfway, I just stood there, waited till he waddled his fat ass all the way over to me. While he was huffing and puffing and trying to catch his breath, this just came to me, and I've used it since, but it just came out of the blue to my head. I said, at my age, there's a very short list of people I'll take an ass chewing from, and you're not on it.
And how did he respond? That doesn't seem like he would. He's a guy that would respond too well to that type of jab.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as nice as these two guys we're talking to today.
I hear you, man. Have you guys ever seen it come to blows at a place like that? Because I know at truck stops, I've seen the videos. We've all seen the videos of people getting into fist fights over a fuel pump or something like that. But at a customer, obviously here at H&M Trucking, our customer service is one of our best features. We keep our customers coming back all the time. So you're not going to see this from an H&M driver. But Scotty, have you ever seen it come to a physical altercation at a customer with a driver before?
No, seen it come close, but not with H&M.
Okay.
H&M drivers, no.
Yeah, no, I didn't think with H&M drivers. I'm talking about any other drivers that you might have seen out there.
Some of them comes in with a bad attitude, but they don't get you nowhere.
Yeah.
Even when you're getting DOT, don't go in there with a bad attitude, because it ain't gonna get you nowhere. You're gonna be in worse shape than you were before.
Right.
I got DOT this morning. Got no faults noted.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine you go into your DOT with a bad attitude, that's going to buy you a fine-tooth comb, and that's about all. Yeah. How about you, Tommy? You ever seen it come to blows at a customer with another driver? Obviously, like I said, we don't expect or see any of that from H&M, but there's some Wild West drivers out there. You ever seen it come to a physical altercation at a customer over some dust-up?
No, not really between customers, but between drivers. I run a hopper, so we get in the line, and it's first come, first serve, and you'll have a guy try to jump the line, and I've seen a couple of issues get pretty heated.
Yeah, I can imagine. For the type of behavior that gets your ass kicked at Disneyland, I have to imagine out on the line of hoppers, it's probably not very welcome out there either.
Yeah, and the hoppers is a whole different world in the van. All of our loads are live loads, live unload. So we can be sitting for days waiting to get loaded because they ran out of product or they don't have room for product when we show up at a receiver. So we're just a storage bin sitting out there in the parking lot, So it's, it can get heated and sometimes it's kind of rough to maintain sitting out there for hours and hours because they wanted you here at a certain time, but they're not ready for you, even though you had to be there by your appointment, And
sure.
So drivers get heated with each other, but it seems more between the drivers than it does with the customers.
Yeah, that's too bad, too, because we want to see drivers be friends and help each other out there on the road, not make it harder. I mean, your guys' job is hard enough with all the idiots driving around on four wheels that you have to deal with every day and the weather and the traffic and all the rest of it. You want to have a driver there next to you that you could depend on in a pinch, not somebody you think might knock you right in the top of the nose or something like that. What about you, Denny? Have you ever seen anything like that come to physical altercation or anything like that at a receiver or shipper?
Not with a customer, but like everybody else said, between drivers, and then I know a few lumpers I've been ready to punch out. They want to charge you $300 or $400, but then they won't get off their ass and get your truck unloaded.
Okay, so the lumpers, that maybe that nickname comes from somewhere. Maybe they got a pop knot put on their head a couple times.
I never thought of that. You might have a point there.
That's great. Well, fellas, I want to thank you both, Tommy and Scotty, for coming on here and laughing with us a bit.
Don't forget Wilson.
And Wilson. He's the star of the show. But I want to give you guys a chance to say anything that you might want to before we let you go. Scotty, of course, you've done this many times. Anything you want to say to anybody that might be listening, my friend, the floor is yours.
Well, as I do a podcast and I do things for my fellow drivers, not for me, for my fellow drivers. I've logged in 47 and a half years driving a truck in foreign countries as well as the United States. And to all the drivers, may the good Lord be with you wherever you may travel. Be well, be safe. And as Spock used to say on Starship Enterprise, live long and prosper, my friends. And right now, may the good Lord be with our country. We're in so much turmoil at this time. So I'm not going to go into political stuff. That's not my thing. But our country's in so much turmoil and so divided. I just hope the good Lord kind of blesses our country and watches over us.
Well said there, Scotty. Always appreciate the time. Thank you for being here. And Tommy, same goes to you, man. You get to say whatever you want here at the end. Thank you for your time, but the floor is yours.
You bet. Well, I was with the previous company for 28 years, and I did everything from fabricating, welding, truck driving, installing. We built marinas and boat docks, and the company sold. A great company, and I did a lot of research and studying on my next move in a company, and I came to H&M, and like I said, July 17th to be my 1-year anniversary, and it is an awesome company. I'd rather say it's an awesome family. It's not a company, it's a family. It's the H&M family. The guys at the shop, if you have an issue, they're right on it. My dispatcher, Lizzie, she rocks. She's an awesome girl, and she keeps me in check, and I give her a lot of grief, so she has to deal with me. But I'm just thankful, and a lot of the drivers I've met with the H&M family, everybody's just great people. It's an amazing company, and I'm just thankful to be part of it.
Well, we're thankful to have you and Wilson along for the ride. I will say this in advance. Happy anniversary, since we're not going to have you on for that. But amazing stuff that you've got your first year under your belt with H&M. And here's to many more coming down the road in front of you. All right, Tommy?
You got it. I appreciate you guys, and safe travels, drivers, and the Lord be with you.
Well said, fellas. We'll talk to you again soon.
Look forward to it.
All right.
Bye now.
You bet. Bye now.
That's going to put the brakes on episode 67 and turn it in for the night. Thank you all for listening. And to those of you that took part this week, Sarah, Vernon, Scotty, and of course, Tommy, we really appreciate the time. Love to have people in on this podcast. Again, I say this a lot, and it really is true. I don't think that it comes across all the time. It probably sounds a lot like me just trying to glad hand people on an election year, but this podcast is good. It's fun to listen to. It's informative. It's educational because of the people that we have on as guests. I'm not the guy. My job here is to be the point guard. I'm the facilitator, okay? You might call me the expo on if you're working in a line kitchen. I am not the quarterback. I am not the guy that is going to make all the plays. I'm merely the one that sets up the offense to make the plays. And those of you that join me are the stars of this podcast. So thank you again to Sarah, Vernon, Tommy, and Scotty. It was a lot of fun talking to you all today, and we got a lot of great information on this podcast about customer service and these new check-in kiosks that you will absolutely be seeing sooner or later, but they're out there. And listen, get fluent in robot. It's gonna happen. We're all seeing it. I mean, you checked out these things. Have you guys ever Googled Boston Dynamics? Just Google Boston Dynamics and watch some of the YouTube videos that these people are doing. The damn robots are going to be our Cirque du Soleil performers before too long, and they're going to slowly take over a lot of stuff. Check-in kiosks looks like one of the first things, but we can make the best of it and still show great customer service out there. It's just something that we have to think about a little bit. And it's good that we've got a great team of drivers and a great team of office staff to help us kind of navigate those unfamiliar waters. So we appreciate everybody for coming on and sharing their time today. We appreciate those of you that were out there and listening and clicked download. Stay safe out there, drivers. Keep the shiny side up. And as always, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve, drivers.